We just finished SummerSlam.
That was good.
Dude, I was so tired.
Oh.
I was tired as a champ. I don't even know what that saying means. Tired as mug.
Mug, yeah. That's what we say. Have you ever been so tired, though, that you lay there thinking about how tired you are and you just can't, like,
Well, the
fall
problem
asleep?
is after you do something like that late at night, like if I'm up speaking and it's late, then my brain's so engaged still that my body is exhausted, but my brain is still spinning.
It takes a long time.
And so I've learned over the years that when you're exhausted, that's when temptation comes your direction.
Oh.
And so I'm sitting there at the house and everybody's asleep. Rachel's asleep. Lillian Tice's asleep. It was like 7:30.
PM?
PM.
Everyone's asleep at 7:30. Okay.
Yeah, everyone's asleep. It's just me and the dog sitting on the couch, and I started to get hungry.
What'd you do? What'd you eat?
Dude, it was bad because we've been eating healthy, so we don't have any junk food in our house.
And even for SummerSlam, like the dinners we did, it was pretty healthy.
Yeah, and I was eating grilled chicken from Chick-fil-A every night and all the things before SummerSlam. And so, when you don't have junk food in your house, you have to make up some junk food.
Oh, no.
And so I go and start raiding the pantry and raiding the refrigerator. And so I get some chocolate chips and a peanut butter and a spoon. And so I'm putting peanut butter on my spoon and dipping them in chocolate chips and eating them. And then that's not enough. And then I find that the kids have some Teddy Grahams, but they're like the little lunch packets. So I just get the whole box. And so I ate, 4 or 5 of those packets. But then after like 2 packets, it wasn't very good. So I went and got some Nutella, and I'm like putting Nutella on Teddy Grahams. And then I got the half gallon of chocolate milk. We bought it for a prop or something and didn't end up using it. And so I'm sitting in my living room after this great spiritual victory. I'm all alone with my dog, and I bet ate 2,500 calories of garbage.
And Teddy Grahams and Nutella.
Yeah, just garbage.
Oh, my word.
And so you got to watch out.
No, it's true.
The devil will get you when you're sleepy.
So yeah, when you're tired, man, all kind of crazy things happen.
Yeah, it's like the real you run out of like self-discipline when you're exhausted. It's like your reserve of control has dwindled away.
Yeah.
And then you're doing something you shouldn't do.
Right. Like that last night we went to IHOP at like 12:30 or something.
Yeah.
Ate pancakes. I was so miserable. I had such a hard time sleeping that night because I had to gorge myself. Because I was just exhausted and I was hungry and I made really bad decisions.
At IHOP at midnight.
Yes.
I ordered a burger with fries with onion rings on the burger and a 4 stack of strawberry pancakes.
Yes.
I am not 17.
No, correct. That's exactly how I felt. Like, I am too old for this. I do not eat like this, man.
But it's because we were running so hard.
Right.
We were running so hard to prep for SummerSlam and to do 3 nights in a row.
Right.
And Thursday, we had booked all of these meetings. We always do this to ourselves, that when we're really busy for a while and we can't work on regular church stuff, that then we try to stack it all in a day. And so yesterday we had like
we still worked a full day, of all these meetings because...
Yeah, so I left IHOP at 1:30, and then I was meeting with a major city influencer at 9 a.m.
we met at 9 a.m. Why we did this, I don't know.
Because we are still learning the pace.
We're still learning the right pace.
We don't all the way have the right pace of like when to run and when to rest.
No, we did do a good job because that night we had been tempted to schedule a different meeting for dinner either that night or tonight or whatever, and we didn't do that one. So we like overdid on one end, but then we did better on the other. And so we're learning that like there is a pace you have to find. It's just hard.
Yeah,
it's hard to find it.
I just got back from a 3.5 week sabbatical.
Yeah,
which is essentially a vacation.
Yeah.
So I wasn't preaching. I wasn't even in the office here at the church. Just like took some time with family and myself and all the things to spend some time resting.
Yeah.
But the problem that I have with rest is like we have stuff to do.
Right.
Like we need to be accomplishing. God built us to do great things. We're called to do more.
Right.
Which if you're new to the show, glad that you're here. Tug of More is talking about how we all feel like we have this pull towards something great.
Right.
And if you have that tug of something great in your life, it's hard to rest. It's hard to stop.
Well, because if you are that type of person, you're used to the pull and the push. And I think that's what's hard is that you get in this pace. And so you feel like I can run fast. I can run hard. I can keep going and not stop because that's what I do.
Yeah.
But there is a point when you become exhausted if you don't figure out the right pace. And so I think for us, like naturally, like I'm not a runner. And so like I've ran with friends before who are, and their pace is they can keep a consistent pace way faster than I can.
Yeah.
But those of us who do that in life and in work and in ministry, we have to figure out a healthy way to stop. And it's hard.
Right, because if you want to be in whatever industry you're in for a long time, for us it's ministry.
Yeah.
If you're a business owner or an influencer or doing whatever,
Right.
there's a pace that we have to learn, because you can't run a marathon at a sprint speed.
No.
You can't. It's going to kill you. And so for us, we've screwed it up a bunch. Let's talk about
Many times.
Yeah,
All of them?
how we've screwed up the pace.
So we've been doing this full time together for almost like 5 years, a little more than 5 years. And I think that first year, man, we had so much that we were doing that we literally didn't ever stop. Like we were working for sure 6 full days a week and then multiple hours more than the 8-hour day, because we just, even when we weren't here in the building, we were working at home, or we were
because the organization was in like a emergency.
Yeah, there was an emergency, and so our boundaries weren't healthy of life, like the priorities of family and the right structure. It wasn't in balance.
Well,
and that happens sometimes, I think, and is necessary
if there's an emergency.
Right.
Like
but then you can get used to it.
Boom.
Right.
So all of us have been in seasons, especially this last year of COVID,
right,
where it feels like the world is burning down.
Right.
And when there's an emergency going on, you have to put in the hours. You have to put in the time, the meetings, the conversations, the thought processes. And then once it starts to level out,
right,
for me anyways, I'm so spooled up that I just never like
stop. Right.
Relax.
Right. I remember that first year, you and I and another pastor were texting about a bunch of stuff one day, and then we just kept texting, and then I went out to dinner with my husband and kept texting, and finally one of the guys said, "Hey y'all, it's Valentine's Day. Let's stop talking about this until tomorrow." And he was right. Like I was at dinner for Valentine's Day with my husband,
with our spouses in different places at Valentine's
still
dinner.
Still working. What am I doing?
Yeah.
But it happens because you get used to this pace and you think it's what you need to run always.
Yeah.
But we have to. You're right. In this last year, man, we shifted everything because we couldn't meet in person. And so we were recording all the time to create content for our church, for our people.
Yeah.
But we were doing it at weird times of day and weird hours. And so it was kind of like we shifted from morning to whatever to more like afternoon and night kind of events and things, because we used our spouses a ton. We utilized other people. And then when we went back to meeting in person, it was like we forgot to then adjust back to what we used to do.
Right.
And so I think that you have to like pay attention to the current pace that we're in every time something shifts, every season that shifts.
Yeah, I've started taking a spin class.
Yes.
Which is like kind of uncharacteristic of me, I think.
No, but it's good.
Like a bike, you go to a room and they've got a bunch of bikes.
Right.
Like stationary bikes set up, and they've got like laser lights and like really loud music. And as I've done a bunch of different workouts, but this one's so interesting and difficult because the pace changes so hard. They have like different light colors they'll turn on. And when you're going hard, it's red or it's like flashy, but then they'll go to blue and it's just like you're supposed to go really slow.
Yeah.
And I'm in this up and down class. You're out of the seat. You're going as fast as you can. You're changing the weight on the bike. But in my life, I try to keep my legs moving the same speed no matter what life is throwing at me. And it's not manageable, man.
No.
It's not manageable.
But the reason I think that, in spin classes and all that, there's an instructor telling you what to do.
Okay.
There's someone that tells you, because if the reason I am not as good working out on my own, because I need a coach. I need someone pushing me. Or telling me to stop and rest.
Yeah.
Like I never even knew before I had instructors that you're supposed to rest in between your weight sets. All these things. I just kept going, trying to get it done as fast as I could. It's hard in life though, because there's not anyone telling us, hey, okay, it's about to be What she knows in the class is that the third song is going to be hills and we're going to have to climb it fast and hard. And so the second song has to be a little more chill to get us ready.
Yeah.
We don't know in life what's coming at the third song.
Right.
And so we just keep pushing as fast as we can. But then when the third song hits, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because we haven't come up with the right pace. And so how do we manage ourselves to learn how to do it? We still haven't all the way figured it out.
You're right. There's nobody who's telling us, here's the pace that you should be keeping.
Yeah.
For me, I think that I have a very real, probably unhealthy, like countdown clock in my head of viable years of ministry that I have left. So like, I understand I'm knocking on the door of 40. I'm 39 right now. And so like, I look at when I'm 65, 67, whatever the age is, that it's like, I'm still effective and can still do great things, but it's probably going to be smart for me to hand over the pulpit of Living Church or the reins of leadership, and maybe earlier, maybe later, I don't know. But there's this countdown that is like, I've got to squeeze every drop out of life that I can.
Yeah.
And when you live like that, it's good. We need to have some urgency, but at the same time, we have to trust God.
Well,
we have to trust God that like, I don't need to just run myself into the ground for the next 30 years.
Right. Yeah.
I'll die when I'm I'll be like, and the next generation, and then I croak.
Right. Well, I mean, one, it's biblical to have rest.
It is.
And so we're supposed to work hard for 6 days and then rest on the seventh. That's what God tells us. The other part, you said, squeeze every drop out of life. The problem is we only have one body. We only have one family. We only have one set of circumstances that if we squeeze it too intensely, too quickly, it will be squeezed dry.
Exactly.
And I think that we have both in the last 5 years ran into dry seasons because we were just squeezing too hard. We weren't giving ourselves time to replenish because we were trying to get it done as fast as we could. We understand the urgency that people are dying and going to hell. And I think that's a hard one ministry wise when you're like, I care deeply about this thing, and whatever you're leading, you care deeply about it or you wouldn't be leading it.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of stuff that's outside of your control.
Right.
Like even today.
Oh, yeah.
We had somebody in the church had a family emergency.
Yeah.
They're not on staff. They're not even really that involved.
Right.
But like stuff is popping off everywhere and a bunch of people are getting texted and called in and involved. And so you and Rachel had to jump in and intervene and handle it. And so like that interrupted our rest. It interrupted our normal schedule.
Right.
And so the things we would have been doing then now have to get pushed somewhere else because there's this big interruption.
And it's going to be hard. And I think the other part that you and I are bad at is we don't value our own, like, we put ourselves last. Yeah, we don't value it correctly. And it sounds like humble, but it's not. It's just what it is of like, well, that can wait. I can make that wait. It's not important. We don't put the right importance on it.
Yeah.
And I think we're learning.
Yeah.
For me, the panic has been more because my kids are getting older that I've been recognizing it this last year and been like, oh, I have to, because the years are going away. But man, it can still be so hard to balance it. And I think it's hard to set the right pace. So how do we learn to set it?
I don't know. I think we be aware of where we are. So like in the bike class, they'll yell like, okay, we're going up a hill, which is kind of funny because we're all pretending there's no hill there.
Right.
But you're in the season of like the thing is harder and you're trying to stand up on the bike and you're pushing. And so if we can understand the season that we're in, like for me right now, I've got 2 young kids.
Yeah.
And we're in the summer.
Right.
And so for them, Titus wants to play.
Right.
He wants me to get down on the ground and play with Hot Wheels.
Right.
I don't want to. I got stuff to do. But I have to remember, like, this is the season that I'm in.
Yeah.
And, like, in just a few years, he's not going to want to play Hot Wheels with me. And so just get down and remember the season that we're in.
No, but it's also good what you said, the season of life, the season of the year. Like for everyone's business, you have different like growth times, you have different rest times. And so you took this sabbatical time in the summer because for churches, typically, it's a more slower season of the year.
Right.
Yes, there's camps and there's fun things to be involved in, but like we're not driving as hard because people are on vacation, life is out of a different sync of schedule, kids are out of school, all these pieces. And so if it's easy, and we've done it before, where we want to teach something really like, this is it, in the middle of July, but it's not wisdom for us to keep driving, because why?
Well,
Christmas is coming. Because these other bigger things keep going.
It's not wisdom for us to do, for me, like as a teacher, to do a really deep teaching in the middle of the summer when I know that everybody's going to be gone for at least one week of the month. And while my kids are out of school, that I should not be trying to put 25 hours into a sermon weekly in the middle of the summer.
Right.
But September's coming.
Right.
And so September is a growth month historically for us as Living Church. And so we know what we're doing, what we're prepping for, and what we're building towards.
And we're learning.
And my kids are in school.
Right.
And like, it's the pool is closed.
Right.
And so
no, it's true.
I can now know that I can push a little harder then
Right.
than maybe I need to right now.
We grew up hearing that phrase, to stop and smell the roses.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for you and I, in our mind, I think that phrase became
bunch of wimps.
Lamos.
Quit smelling the roses and
get going
and do some gardening.
What are you doing? But the real truth of that is like there's beauty around us, and we miss it if we're not slowing down at the right pace. Even in our ministry, you said something to me 2 nights ago at our SummerSlam event. You said, "Hey, think about 2 years ago," and you just went like this, like just 6 little statements of like where we were to where we are, what we didn't have, what we have, what we didn't build yet, and what we have built. And that was like a moment of like, oh, we have to look back, and then we can stop and smell the roses in this moment.
Yeah.
It gave me, for me in my job, I'm constantly like worshiping and paying attention to everything else that's happening around me in a service, because I want to make sure it goes well. I want to make sure it's done right. I need to let somebody know if something's off kilter. And it allowed me for a minute and a half to just go, oh my word, God, this is incredible what we're getting to do.
We had some of the things we had talked about were like, back then we were doing 2 services.
Yeah.
Back then in our Matlock building, our back wall of the auditorium was covered in pallet boards. It was just a wood wall.
Projector screens on 2 sides.
We had a camera in the back of the room that wasn't manned.
No.
There was all of these things that we didn't,
much.
just literally 2 years ago. And then now in just 2 years, the advancement that God's brought into the church teams that he's developed and staff that he's brought on is huge.
Right. So 2 years ago, we had 2 people who knew how to work the camera, edit a video, any of this. Now we have an entire team of people, volunteers and staff, that can do mighty things. We're like, what? It's just, you get running in the pace. It's what you said before. You get running in it and you just keep going.
Which that's the problem with having a tug of more.
Yeah.
Because when you have a tug of more in you, you're not satisfied with where you're at.
Yeah.
And when you're not satisfied with where you're at, you're going to run to try to get to the next thing. And this is what I do.
Right.
We have a victory, a success, and then I can only celebrate it for 5 seconds because of the tug of more in me. I see the next thing that we need to be accomplishing.
Right.
And so instead of celebrating what God did, I'm talking about what we have to do next.
Right.
And that is a pace that is not always healthy.
No.
And so we're learning when to put the next thing off till the next day.
Yeah.
Or off to the next season, or actually build a good plan.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Instead of just implementation all the time.
Let's talk about the damage done when we don't.
Okay.
Let's talk about you and I, we talk about risk all the time, and what's the risk and the reward, but what's the risk of always pushing for more? Maybe somebody's watching, listening, and they're like, yeah, but I've still got all the energy. Yeah, I still feel good. But there's a lot of problems if you just keep doing that. If you don't stop and celebrate, if you don't look back, if you don't find the right pace.
Yeah, lots.
Yep.
So we could talk a lot of different directions.
Yeah.
You want me to just talk personally first?
Start.
So when I was 30-something, 32, 33, and really from my whole life, I felt like I would never run out of energy.
Right.
Like I would be able to keep that pace and run forever, and really looked at people that even talked about what we're talking about right now as weak.
Right. Well,
honestly.
It's a phrase we say all the time, that energy is a choice. And that's true to an extent.
I taught the staff in the church that energy is choice. It still is a choice. Energy is a decision. When I was tired, on night 3, I stood behind a
Right.
screen and jumped up and down
Right.
and told myself, you got all the energy that
Yeah.
you need. And then I went out and did everything
Yeah.
I needed to do. It's a choice. But there's a point where in your physiology, in your mental capacity,
Right.
and even in God keeping his hand of favor on you, that there has to be a pace. And so for me, I suffered adrenal fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like a real diagnosed, went to the
No,
doctor.
because that day though, you could not have mustered any.
No.
We were on a trip in a beautiful place.
Yeah.
And energy couldn't be a choice then because
No.
physiologically.
I was done.
Yeah.
We, Rachel and I and Aaron Witt went to Cabo
Yeah.
on a trip. And I was like, we went on a fishing
Yep.
excursion.
Yep.
And I was asleep in the boat.
Yeah.
Not like Jesus. Well, maybe.
Maybe.
I was asleep in the boat, couldn't fish. I caught a fish, was reeling it in halfway through, literally gave it to Aaron, was like, I can't.
Which is the
I-
opposite of
No,
you.
because Mia's like, let me catch a whale.
Yes.
But like, I was dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just laid in the room on this trip and then came back and went and had all the blood work done and all the things. And it's when really my health journey
Yeah.
started. But my health got out of whack because my pace
Right.
was so broken.
No, it's true.
Like they send military recruits like to boot camp
Yeah.
and they're like, don't let them sleep for
Yeah.
2 weeks and they don't feed them. And,
Right.
But you can only do that for so long
Right.
until you really start breaking down. And I think now that I've got a little bit more maturity on me, that I'm like, yeah, maybe I should have a different pace
Yeah.
in this race.
No, it's true. I think if we don't take time to look, stop, celebrate before we push to the next, we don't get a better pace. We damage the people around us.
For sure.
We damage our families, which I've done 1,000 times. I've put them lower on the totem pole than I should in priority, in relationship, in
But if someone asked you in the moment, do you put this thing you're doing over the priority of your family? You would say, no way.
I would get aggressively frustrated that they even suggested it.
Because in your heart you don't, in your
No.
mind you don't. But in the moment,
But in my
in your
actions,
actions,
right.
we do.
Yeah, absolutely. I make a choice that someone else's emergency that's popping off in their
Yeah.
marriage is more important than what might be popping off in my marriage.
Right.
If I don't learn to say this is a sacred moment, I'm not giving it up. My counselor got me with it one day because he was telling me about some people. He was trying to help them fit into his schedule that was available, and they were like, oh, I can't do it. Our marriage is falling apart though. You gotta help us. You gotta meet with us at this day, at this time. This is our only time. And he was like, well, I understand that your marriage is gonna fall apart.
Right.
But if I meet with you at this time that I'm supposed to be with my wife, my marriage will fall apart.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it hit me so hard because I do it. I'll be like, it's fine. Aaron will understand. We can shift this thing that
Yeah.
we have planned
Yeah, Rachel
because I
will.
need to help these people.
No, for a bunch of years, we didn't celebrate like birthdays. We did,
Right.
but not on the day or an anniversary or I don't know what. Like they were the second thought.
Right.
They were the second thought because
As long as it fits in the schedule.
they got eclipsed by like the bigger thing.
Yeah.
Or like my kids' birthdays, we would still have a birthday party,
Right.
but it would be like 10 days after the kid's birthday
Right.
party, or not on the weekend closest to the birthday party.
Right.
And like sometimes those things are going to happen.
With life,
as
yeah.
they should.
Right.
Like
There's
if your
certain-
birthday is right next to Easter,
right.
sorry.
No, right.
Like
No, it's
like,
just-
but
Within reason, within understanding of
Yeah.
like, yeah, you can't throw a fit if we have to do something on your birthday or whatever. But at the same time, as long
it
as
shouldn't be every time, all the
right,
time,
as long
forever.
as it depends on you. If you're the one creating the schedule and it doesn't have anything to do with the actual calendar, then let's do it right.
One of the tough things about how it affects other people, like
Mm-hmm.
if we don't learn the right pace, is that not everybody can run at the same speed.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say next.
Okay,
too.
so
Yeah.
like for you and I, we've been running at this pace
yeah,
since I was a child,
gonna say our whole
as
life.
a kid.
Yeah.
Our parents did it.
Yeah.
We grew up in it. And then so sometimes God will bring somebody along on the team.
Yeah.
And we expect them to jump in and run.
right,
And they can't.
right. No,
And like there's got to be a grace period of like, can this person pull the load?
Right.
Or are they just not a fit?
right. But then the other side of it is, are we creating the right space and the right environment for anyone to thrive?
Yeah.
Because the truth of the matter is, one, we're the ones leading. So not only are we responsible for what we push, but we're also responsible for the pace. And so like, if we keep going at an unhealthy pace, that's not healthy for anyone, but we duplicate it in our team and we either expect it or they leave or they are crushed. And so there's a balance that we have to find. There's a healthy pace, because if let's just take SummerSlam, for example. If we did this incredible thing that our team did an incredibly great job at, and if we don't pause long enough to say, great job, you guys killed that. If we literally just start critiquing and going to the next thing, how unfair of us to not give them the time and the accolades. And so we even talked about it. We were like, well, we should probably have a staff meeting on Friday, and we're like, no, they should rest. We should make sure they rest because they need to rest. And we've done that wrong before.
For sure.
But we're learning it new now because we don't want to just be running in ministry by ourselves. We want a team with us, and I think it's important.
And I think that a healthier me, a more rested me, can do a lot more in the hours I am working.
Absolutely.
Than if I just keep dragging my body along.
Absolutely.
Like if I'm fresh and good, then I'm super productive.
Right.
Or as if I'm just exhausted my whole life, then I'm not
spending a ton of
it.
time, you said, like mustering up the energy or like telling yourself I can do it.
Yeah.
Whereas if we're just rested, we can get a lot done. And
okay.
Go.
So if somebody feels that they're out of sync, that their pace is inaccurate, what are some steps that they need to take?
The first one that you and I have been learning is, do we really trust God?
God, yeah.
And like,
that's not what I thought you were going to say first, but it's the first one.
It is the first one.
And it's the most
important one. And I think you and I we shared even with our church, like we've been loving God our whole lives.
Yeah.
We've been going to camp and serving him and learning and doing, and like, I trust him with everything.
Yeah. I talked to a buddy about this 2 years ago, pre-COVID, when I was still like in the health journey and trying to figure it all out. And I'm explaining it all to him, and he said, well, you don't trust God. I got so mad.
Right.
What do you mean I don't trust God?
Yes, I do.
Look, I've done this and this and this and this, and these are all trusting God. He's like, yeah, but you trust you.
Right.
You don't trust him.
Right.
And like, I'm still chewing on that.
No.
I'm still chewing on that because there's we have to work.
Right.
And like the vast majority, one of the reasons I don't even want to talk about some of this content is because the vast majority of pastors and church leaders are lazy scrubs.
Right. No,
I love you. I love you.
No.
Listen, I love you and Jesus loves you. But I think that we don't have urgency.
No.
I think that we're just comfortable in our building and the size of our congregation, and we don't realize that hell is a real place. And so we're not aggressively trying to reach lost people.
Right.
And so we can get lazy and apathetic. But there's a balance.
Well, something we've been talking about
before. Was that too aggressive?
No, something I've talked about before is you don't get mad at yourself when you need to fill up gas in your car because you're driving a lot. You got to stop every so little bit and put gas in your car. But if you're not driving anywhere, if your car's just sitting in the garage, you don't need to put gas in it.
Right. So if you aren't doing nothing, quit taking breaks.
Right. No, it's true.
Right.
Like we know people who aren't doing anything and they're constantly on vacation. And then when they come back from vacation, they're like, I really need another break from my vacation. No, stop. You need to go get something done.
Yeah.
But so there's truth in the work that we need to do. But if we really trust God, then we can work in the hours that we are supposed to and then rest in the hours we're supposed to rest and believe that he will actually do more in our rest than we can do in our busyness.
So as a church and organization, we bought a bunch of land that we're going to build a building on, and God told us to wait.
Right.
We don't really know why.
Yeah.
And I've been wrestling a bunch with, well, what does wait mean? Because like we're waiting, but can I still be working?
Right.
And I think we've done a really good job.
Yeah.
Because I've been trying to just trust God and not go out and tour a bunch of buildings.
No, right.
Not go out and do a bunch of stuff.
Right.
I'm always good at doing stuff. Maybe I just need to stop doing stuff and trust God.
Well, you and I, we believe that like, even if we make a misstep, that God's always going to rewrite our story and take care of it. But sometimes I wonder like how much we think about that in the context of sin, the context of bad decisions. But sometimes I wonder like, dude, I make a couple of missteps in my own eagerness that he's like, if you'd have just sat still, I was actually bringing it right to you, but you ran over there so fast that it took me longer to get there.
No, I agree.
And I'm like, if we could just trust that he's really going to do it, then we can do what we're supposed to do.
Okay.
He can do the rest.
So ask yourself if you really trust God.
Yep.
Or if you're trusting you.
Yep.
What else?
Predetermine the schedule, the priorities that we've had to like step back and look and go, okay, what's actually a reasonable amount of work? What's actually a reasonable amount of rest? What's actually right? Like you have to actually
start drawing definitive lines.
Yeah, you have to put real parameters around it. And so like for me, the easiest, silliest one I did back when I realized I was literally going home working on my laptop and all the things was I didn't pick up my laptop after 6:30 unless predetermined I'm going to need to work on something tonight. And then my husband and I started going on date nights on Wednesdays because our kids were in youth. And those were like sacred, not going to change.
Yeah.
And they were just little.
Yeah.
But they helped me at least start building some parameters.
Yeah. I think that those are a good deal, that we have to start saying no to some things.
Yeah.
To say yes to something else. It sounds kind of cliche, but in the moment, it's really hard to say no.
Right.
I got a call not too long ago to go and preach for a guy. He's going to pay me great money.
Right.
To come and preach a message that I've already preached.
Right.
But it was like, no, it was during my sabbatical.
Yeah. No, right.
And it's like, I have said I'm going to be off this time and let my brain recuperate.
Right.
So I could go and do this thing, and it's just going to take a day and a half.
Right. And I'm already off from my church anyway.
But that, for me, was a maturity step to say no.
Yeah. No.
So I could trust God.
No, right.
You know?
No, I think it's super important to, and then also determine those. Like, that's hard. Let's talk about this. I am good at saying, I'm resting today. Like, I didn't come to the building. But then I'm like this. Or I'm engaged in a show or a podcast that is going to actually get my brain going into work, into business, into building, into and you and I are the worst at it. Like yesterday, we even had some time in between two of the meetings, and we're like, let's just grab some food and not talk about work. And so then I come up with this, let's just dream this thought, and then before we know it,
we have our phones out writing,
and I'm like, oh wait,
to-do lists.
We were not supposed to be working, but we did.
Okay, so do we trust God?
Right.
We have to say no to some things so we can say yes to some other things.
Right. Build some parameters.
I think another one is we have to cultivate a culture of the right pace around us.
Yes.
So like for me, when I went on the sabbatical, something I'm really appreciative of is our staff, our team here at Living Church, that they let me take the time.
Right.
That I wasn't getting blown up with questions and emails and all the things. And so when people understand that we have to create that culture, and sometimes I'm bad at it. I'll be texting Bailey.
Right.
I tagged Bailey in a video the other night after SummerSlam at 12:30 because I saw this video and I had a creative idea, and I tagged Bailey, and she might have been asleep. Now she's woke up, and what does he do? And so we have to work on helping those around us rest and create that culture.
Calling it out in each other, and then choosing the right kind of rest is kind of where I was going in my thought is like there's all kinds of rest. No, it's fine.
No,
it's good.
This is really good.
Because for me, once I built the parameters, I thought I was doing it, but I wasn't really. So I'm at dinner with my husband, but texting about blah, blah, or this is sacred time, but I'm still engaging my brain.
Yeah.
I'm not resting my mind. I'm not letting my heart re-engage in the right things. And it's detrimental because your brain needs rest.
Yeah.
What we do is a creative, we need our brain to be fully fresh to be able to do the things we do.
Yeah. I don't know the list, and maybe this could be another episode.
Yeah.
But something my counselor and I were talking about is that there's different types of rest.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I was taking days off, and so laying on the couch,
right,
and trying to decompress, but it wasn't working.
Right.
But it was because I was taking that was physical rest.
Right.
No, I needed creative rest.
Right.
I needed relational rest.
Right.
I had to go to the woods alone
Right.
and not have any noise in my ears from kids or my stupid phone.
Right.
And so there's a lot of different kind of rests that we need to be pursuing.
No, I think it's super important, because if we don't, we think we're doing it, and then we're just spinning ourselves into more frustration.
Yeah.
And so then we've taken time off. What happens is then we've taken time off, we come back, we feel more behind than we were before, and we feel like that wasn't really beneficial. And so we end up, and that's kind of what was happening to
Yeah.
you. You're like, rest is not beneficial to me, so
Yeah.
why don't I just keep going?
I feel like some people that are watching right now are thinking something.
What do you think they're thinking?
They're thinking, I already have so many plates spinning
Okay,
that y'all don't know what I'm carrying.
that's really good.
My marriage, my kids,
Yep.
my job, got to mow the yard, got to put oil in the car.
True.
That you're thinking about the plates that are spinning, and you're thinking there's no way that I could rest. So here's what my suggestion would be. Write down all the, have you ever seen
Good.
one of those people that are spinning plates? They have like a stick and
Yes.
they put a plate on it and they spin it. It's like a circus trick.
Right.
And they got like 30 plates, and eventually the plates start to fall because they don't get spun and they
Right.
crash.
You can't possibly keep them
I
all
think
going.
that take a minute and write down all the things in life that are taking your energy.
Mm-hmm.
Write them all down. Then write down other stuff that you do.
Right?
What TV shows do you watch?
Right.
What do you? I don't know. What else in your
What's your
life?
habits?
What are
What's
your
your-
habits of your
right.
life? And then look at those lists that are filling your day, and decide you're going to cut 10% of it.
Yeah.
That I'm going to stop doing something. I'm going to stop this hobby.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop. I don't know. I'm going to stop collecting Pokemon cards. I'm going to stop planting roses in my backyard.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I'm going to stop going to get my fingernails done. I don't
Right.
know what it is, but maybe there's something somewhere that you could stop doing here, and it would help you have some time.
No, it's true. And even what you just said, like some people, I can't have a date night every week. Well, yeah, you could if you stop getting your fingernails done. Then you could have the money to pay the babysitter to go on your date night.
Yeah.
Like some of it is
It's priorities.
It's priority financially. It's priority time wise. It's priority mental, energy wise. I think you were talking about saying no to some stuff and finding the best yes. And I think it's a really hard thing. As women, I think it's really hard because we're nurturers and we love people. And that's where I find myself constantly is like picking up someone else's need, someone else's ball, someone else's thing that's dropping. I'll help you. I'll help you. And then I hurt myself because I'm helping too much. And I think we have to just decide there's a right pace. And the pace I'm going to live my life at is the pace that God has for me.
Yeah.
And so for you and I, one of the maybe it's the fourth answer, I don't know, is we have to manage our expectations.
Yep.
The expectation of our results, the expectation of our timeline,
Yeah.
the expectation, like, because you and I want to be somewhere.
Yes.
It's the tug of more. Like, we want to be where we're tugging to.
Yeah.
But we have to manage the expectation of how long that really should take. And then God's the one responsible for the miraculous. He's the one responsible for it actually happens faster than
Yeah.
it should,
Yeah.
not us.
No, we go every year to a pastor's conference called C3,
Yeah.
led by Pastor Ed Young at Fellowship Church.
Yeah.
And we go in there and we took 60, 70
Yeah. we
people
take a
with us
bunch
to
of
go
our
and kind of.
volunteers and staff and all that.
And so, like, I could name, we went to Jensen Franklin Free Chapel. I could name 100 churches
Right.
that we've been to. And so, like, are doing a comparable thing to what we feel
Pulled
called,
towards, yeah.
pulled towards. But the understanding of how long that's going to take,
Right.
and how God's actually the one that's going to set up those pieces,
Right.
not just me grinning and bearing
Yeah.
it. Because, like, if we think that Living Church is going to be Fellowship Church in 1 year,
Right. That's only possible with Jesus. Like,
Yeah.
any of that is only the miraculous pieces are only possible with him.
yeah. And so we're just called to be faithful,
Yeah.
and then we're called to be healthy.
Super important. And
Yeah.
so I think for whoever might be watching, there are different seasons that we focus on different parts of our health. And so for us, we've already shared that we focused on our physical health.
Except for them Teddy Grahams and Nutella and
Well,
chocolate
yeah,
milk.
but that's just life. You're allowed, like, That's like balance or something. I
Yeah,
don't know.
but that was bad.
I bet you paid for it the next morning.
It's like, oh.
But now is the time for us to learn the new pace. And like,
Yeah.
we're both, I think, committed to it. And that's, you said it, like, have other people around you that help you, but really hold you accountable to it. And I think that's what you and I have had to learn for each other, to be like, hey, we're doing it. And so
Yeah.
like, this sabbatical wasn't easy, but it was hey, we're going to do this to learn the right pace.
Yeah.
And I think you have to keep doing it.
It's great.
So originally we talked about naming this episode Rest.
Yeah.
But you and I were like, no, there's too many people that don't need rest. We need it to be a pace. And I think
Yeah.
it's really important that as we're learning to tug for more, that we learn to run hard, to rest when we're supposed to keep putting everything in the right balance and the right priority,
Yeah.
to make our bodies healthy, to make our mind healthy.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much that goes into it, that it's not just rest, it's finding pace.
It's really good.
It's super important.
So, do you trust God?
Right.
Are there things that you need to be saying no to?
Or things you better start saying yes to more.
Yep. You've got to create a culture around you
Yeah.
that understands rest. You've got to figure out the type of rest that works for you.
Yeah.
That's for your benefit.
Yeah.
And then you've got to have an expectation that's realistic.
Yeah. That's manageable.
Those are great points.
Those are good. We did a good job. We didn't write none of this.
We didn't have none of that written down, but it's what we're learning.
No,
it's in the process.
Yeah, we're learning from our mistakes. And I think that's the one last piece of it, is that finding pace is like, ask some other people around you. Ask what they've done to learn. If you see somebody, a leader who's healthy, that feel like, wow, ask them how they did it, how they found the balance.
Before I took my sabbatical, it's the first time I'd ever done it.
Yeah.
I called probably 6 guys.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, here's what I'm doing. What do I do?
Right.
What am I supposed to be doing while I'm doing
How do I
this?
do this? Right.
I want to work hard to rest well, but we have to learn it
Yeah.
to be able to do it.
No, you predetermined it, and then you did it. It was great.
It's really good.
Super good.
Man, that was a great one. Guys, our hope and heart is to be providing content that's beneficial to you.
Yeah.
And so the best way we can do that is by getting your questions, your comments, your engagement. And so if there's anything that you'd like Pastor Whitney and I to talk about,
Yeah.
whether it has to do with ministry or business
Yeah.
or entrepreneurship,
anything about tugging towards
family,
more. Yeah.
anything that has you feeling pulled towards something great,
Yeah.
man, ask us the question. Would love to help answer it. Love you guys. Thanks for joining us.